Who's ready to start the day? Who's not ready to start the day? There you go. Let's see. Slowpoke. 46 degrees, 9:09. What are you guys sleeping in today? Well, as a matter of fact, yeah, good night's sleep last night. But plus I start doing the weather before the sun even comes up. So actually I got up, looked at the weather, went back to sleep. Most astounding is what happened in southeastern Florida last night. We'll get to that in a minute. Right now, let's just enjoy this. Burning bush, Old Glory hanging pretty still, not competing with the wind. Now there is wind up in the sky. Now let's go to the summit of Mount Washington this morning where it's still 25 degrees and the wind's close to 50 miles an hour from the northwest. That's the cold weather direction. So there's some wind up in the sky, but down near the ground, it's high barometer chill last night. So when your nights are 14 plus hours and your days are just 9 3/4 hours and you have a high barometer, you can get radiational cooling. And it's still hanging on. At 9 o'clock this morning, the temperature in Springfield, Vermont was still 29. Wow, higher elevation in Worcester, 48. So there's a very subtle boundary over us. You can't really tell by looking at the satellite imagery. It looks like a totally clear sky. Although you do see some white specks there near Mount Washington, Mount Mansfield, and Jay Peak. So let's check those web cameras because they're looking pretty interesting. There's a cloud. The view from Wildcat looking at Mount Washington, capped cloud. And then the view from the club at Stowe, looking up at the mountain, opening day now, less than 24 hours away. Cap cloud, looking kind of white, but much of that snow is going to be melting with warm air coming at us. And also Jay Peak, cap cloud. Jay opens a week from tomorrow. So very interesting, very quiet. Now, we are going to mix out the atmosphere, so this afternoon we do get to 60 degrees in Boston without too much wind. Here's the surface map. This evening, the high pressure is getting offshore. What was a stationary front over us is going to return north as a warm front tonight and tomorrow. And it is going to get very windy tomorrow with that front coming at us from the west. We've been talking about this forever. The interaction of the front from the west and low pressure coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. And we mentioned that there wasn't just one low in the Gulf of Mexico. There have been waves. Here's the satellite imagery over the Gulf of Mexico this morning. The old low is kind of decaying right there in the center of the Gulf of Mexico. And then just east of Miami, there's a surface low pressure system that really raised a ruckus, weather-wise and meteorologically wise, over the last 24 hours. Why was it not named a tropical storm? It had circulation. It caused a lot of damage. Eric Blake went for a walk. He works for the Hurricane Center this morning in Miami. Look at the damage. And then the radar echoes. So the explanation is it's not a warm core, so it did not get a name, even though it looked and felt and had the impact of a tropical storm. It's not getting a name. Unfortunately, that changes the way insurance companies cover these storms, which I think is ridiculous. Anyhow, it was a Mesoscale Convective Vortex, technically speaking. Thunderstorms forming on a boundary. So there was cold air boundary. And the thunderstorms whipped up all these multiple vortices, looking like meso low pressure systems, spinning. And out there now, it looks like a huge meso low pressure system. So I think instead of getting the discrete thunderstorm cells now, we're getting more of a low pressure system forming, but it is baroclinic, not barotropic. Baroclinic means fueled by cold air, and the 700 millibar, about 10,000 feet, over Florida from yesterday afternoon. I snagged this image. You can see the cooler colors there, the more sort of greenish, north of the systems, and it looks like the one in the central Gulf of Mexico, though, is yellow in the middle, so that looked kind of warm core, but that's not getting a name for some reason. And then the yellow on the south side. So it is a not tropical, but baroclinic low pressure coming at New England tomorrow. All right, let's go back to the play-by-play on our weather. Tomorrow, the wind's going to pick up from the southwest. Still looking like a pretty decent day. Clouds are going to be increasing once again. Temperature near 65 degrees. And then the front that's come from the Pacific Ocean is going to meet the front that's coming from the Bahamas, and it's going to happen just a little too late for much impact in New England. The front from the west is going to fall apart as it comes southeast, so those rains, rains, not snow unless you're in northern Maine, are going to not even make it into much of southern New England. The Euro's making more sense today. It's a little farther offshore, it's a little weaker, and it clips Cape Cod with some rain Friday night, Saturday morning. And then it does look like a storm for the state of Maine Saturday afternoon as the two fronts, the low pressure from the south and from the west, meet and start to merge, and then perhaps storm force winds just east of Maine. So the worst of this weather is going to stay offshore. So it's almost a non-event by Saturday afternoon. The wind is going to be only strong when it comes in from the northwest, and that's going to be colder air coming back in late Saturday night. And Sunday, we are on the cold side of the front. Cold air advection and snow squalls are likely across northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire. That's cold air coming in. And that cold air is coming in ahead of the next system that's going to cross the nation next week. And we've been all over the place with this. Speaking all over the place. Where's that cat? Oh no. Time out. Tim, when are you ever going to learn? You can't let Steve just take off like that. Look, he went down the stairs and decided to come back up. All right, let's keep going up. Good cat. All right, we'll get Steve in place and we'll start this thing back up again here in a second. Rex, let him go. I'm walking the cat over to his spot. It's so funny. Who's the cat and who's the dog here? All right, let's get back to the weather. The high pressure system is coming in with the new cold air on Monday. Looks like it's going to go to a position favorable for at least a wintry mix on the front side of our, looks like Tuesday night system. High pressure to the northeast means the wind will come from the northeast, and it'll be cold rain here in Boston, but inland probably be a few hours of mixed precipitation Tuesday night into Wednesday. But ultimately, the stronger low is going to travel to our west. So we're going to be overwhelmed by flow from the south and southwest. And even where it snows for a prolonged amount of time in some of the tallest mountains far north, it will probably go to rain before going back to a mix. So it's not a pure snowstorm for anyone. Maybe far northern Maine. And that's Tuesday night into Wednesday. And there could be a couple of inches of real cruddy stuff accumulating in our mountains, but probably a net gain instead of a net loss next week, not this week. And then the colder air on Thursday looks a lot colder than it did the last couple of runs. So Thanksgiving's looking windy and cold with possible snowflakes in the air just about anywhere if this Euro is right. The Euro has not had the best record on the 6 to 8 day forecast. Nobody has. Certainly did better than the GFS though for this incoming one. We're not getting a hurricane. And so it looks like cold air comes back in for Thanksgiving, and looks cold enough, almost like we may have a skim of ice on some of our ponds, shallow ponds in southern New England by next weekend. Talking now 26th, 27th, with a system and a boundary in the middle of the nation looking calmer than it did yesterday, but that should be pretty interesting when we get to the last 5 or 6 days of November. So enjoy this beauty. That one last moored motorboat yesterday departed, but they left the dinghy, the tender. So not sure what's going on there. And then there goes the ferry out to Boston. I'll be hitting the road north today, Lord willing. Put my skis on tomorrow for the first time. We'll go report from there. I'm not sure what time I'll be out tomorrow. Yesterday, very fascinating sky. I had a dentist appointment, and for the first time in a long time, I got out of the dentist appointment, and they didn't make me come back for some kind of deep cleaning or something like that, so that felt good. And watching the sky yesterday was very interesting. Had to pull over at the end of the day. Oh, and I got an update on the skate park, or the park at Beale, and then Norton Road, Mill Cove, sunset beauty yesterday. All right. We're all present and accounted for. There's Steve, there's the burning bush looking beautiful, and there's T-Rex. Talk to you later. How about that? Critters came up on the table to find some food last night. Funny. The birds in the burning bush. Sparrow. Couldn't resist. All right, now to yesterday's and more. Just can't stop. on a clock in Weymouth. Those are anthropogenic clouds generated by jet planes. Mostly H2O. Not a conspiracy theory. Power lines and contrails. Both are anthropogenic. And much to my amazement, I got a pretty good diagnosis from the dentist. They just cleaned it and said I don't have to come back for any deep cleaning or cavities or anything like that. That's cool. Kind of fun watching the sky too. A little halo effect up there. Ring around the sun or moon, snow or rain soon. Great progress on the park. Beale Park, skate park. Looks tremendous. Funny thing is, it's going to be time for sledding before we know it. And there's the sledding hill. Are we going to be allowed to sled before it's done? I'll arrange that they're both done at the same time. Sorry to disturb you. I just came out here to look at the sunset because we love a sunset for our and more. So if we did not have a cloud, there's a slight chance we would see the new waxing beaver moon. It's the full moon of November on the 27th. In the foreground, there are the West Augusta Yacht Club docks. Very low tide. Can't get your boat in and out right now. So, you know, when there's a new moon or a full moon, it's low tide at sunrise and sunset. And it's high tide at midday and midnight. So that's where we are with the new waxing beaver moon that we cannot see due to cloud cover. I had to pull over. It was just too pretty. So there's birds over there. There's Scalisi. Well, kind of over there. There's the house. I'm on the side of the road. It's just so pretty. I had to do it. Once again, Weymouth, looking at Braintree. The new moon is up there somewhere. Kind of chilly. Even though it's a warm-up, it's still a fairly high barometer, so that's why it's so chilly at night. With a little frost, again this morning in spots. Not sure. Find out. Rewind. What did I say earlier? And more and more and more. Until we meet again. In Vermont.